Welcome to the T-roh Show. Transmitting truth one week at a time.
Welcome to the 49th broadcast of the T-roh Show. This is your host, Keith.
And this is Stu. Good afternoon, everyone.
And once again, we've got a lot to talk about. And a lot of people have been, there's been more expats, I guess they call them expatriates in the last, 10 years than ever in the history of the country itself. And many people are going, they're complete, they don't like it here that as much as advertised. It's the greatest place on earth and all that. And they're going down to, some are going down to Cancun, a lot of them going to Belize, and it's just going crazy. But a lot of the problems they're having is they're not able to actually leave. And we're going to show you some things that may shock you. I guess a lot of the T-roh shows shock a lot of people. And first, we want to talk about a little bit about censorship. So I'm going to show you some numbers here that need to be discussed. And that would be here. Okay. So we've got, this is the Fraternal Order of the Reign of Heaven Society. No, it's not a secret society. No, it's not this. It's pretty much fairly wide open to what it does. It processes reign national status is what it does. You have down here 1,301 people reach. That's just on the Fraternal Order. Okay, this is the T-roh Show, and we'd appreciate if we get some likes on this thing. That's 3,376 last week's show. Okay, so add, 1,301 to 3,376. It was shared over to the General Post Office, and it had 1,386 hits. And that was the 48th broadcast of the T-roh Show. Now now we can assume, even if just half of those listen to the T-roh Show on YouTube, then you would have at least, 2,000, 2,500 hits on YouTube?
Right. Without a calculator.
Yeah. And here's YouTube here, 418 views. So you have that many hits on Fraternal Order, Facebook, and things like that. So, what happened? Did people just hit it and not go watch it? Come on, really? 3,376, and then over here it's 418 views. So we know YouTube. Oh, by the way, you have 2 comments. And there's subscribers here of 892, and this goes up every week, though. This is great, and we do appreciate that. And it deals with the history and origins of contempt of court and other subjects that we talked about. So, just to let people know,
Right, and it's not in their interest. It's not in their best interest to have a accurate reflection of how many real views. Considering the subject matter that we cover.
So anyways, so it is what it is, folks. But there are forces behind this, and a lot of people ask us why we do what we do and everything else. And most of the people that ask us that really haven't listened to what's been going on around them. If you go back and look over all 48, and even before that, 48 broadcasts of the T-roh Show, we really discuss one thing and one thing only. We've been saying the same thing over and over again for 48 times. We talked about the Holy Sepulchre, and the fact that it was actually the Holy Sepulchre that has been basically stating breed them out, which is genocide. It actually came out of their little club over there. And this was talking about why they were bringing in Islam and all that. They were trying to breed everybody out, and that's genocide. Every time you do that, it doesn't reflect well on you. And we started looking and noticing that the Republican and Democratic parties, through the knowing that the Masonic Lodge runs both as 527 companies, have been slowly just pecking at the government of the United States of America, just like a little chicken. They'll just keep pecking and pecking. Well, if you keep pecking in the same spot over and over again, over a long period of time, eventually that sore is going to get pretty big. And they do that. They're real slight when they do things like this. So we put together a little bit of a count one here through our committee. I'm going to share screens with you and go over a little bit of it. Okay, no nation can lawfully appropriate to herself a too disproportionate extent of country and reduce other nations to want subsistence, and a place of abode. Okay, so the United States on Manhattan Island, and this was count one of the Democrats, North American National Party accuses Republicans and Democrats with sedition. This is count one. There's going to be quite a few other counts soon. They can't keep extending themselves as far as they extend themselves. They have territories, very specific: Puerto Rico, Guam, Virgin Islands, a couple of other places that they call themselves U.S. territory. And that's coming from Manhattan Island itself. So if the United States was a conglomerate of states, how come it itself can claim territories? It doesn't make any sense. So the Committee for the Government of the United States of America finds that in the case of North American National Party accuses the Republicans and Democrats of sedition, the following count one of sedition is hereby published in a publication of record. The U.S. state within a state was caused by a foreign secret society known as the Masonic Order Temple with the assistance of the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem, located in Roma, Italy, did knowingly, willfully, intentionally establish an order that requires its members' allegiance was to the order itself over and above country.
And we covered that pretty extensively. 4 or 5, maybe perhaps 6 shows ago, that all their oaths are to the society, not to country, not to anything other than membership.
Right. And that's why there's this big push of and why back in the day, okay, in the 1800s and 1900s, why they did not want Islam or Muslims here. It's because their first allegiance is to Islam. And to accept that type of condition is a state within a state. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute. It says further that the order itself was and still is with full allegiance to its monarch and its heirs, successors, and assigns, known as the Pope of Vatican City. Vatican City is a city-state that created another city-state known as the aforementioned the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem that operates within the United States. So he doesn't operate directly. He goes through another little thing, a little organization called the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem, and then brings them over as if under the guise of religion that's an order. Oh, it's just a club. Don't worry about it. They're no big deal. Not really, not realizing that they're committing espionage and a lot of other political and international crimes by even being here. Their allegiance is to the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre. And believe it or not, even the Knights of Columbus, their members have diplomatic immunity and they have diplomatic passports. Those are little things that nobody knows about.
Mm-hmm. And SPLC falls in there, and they're all parts of the apparatus. They give the main body the ability to affect change and enforce.
Right. You've got now dig this. It says a state within a state is a political situation in a country when an internal organ called deep state. Now, you guys have heard, everybody's heard about the deep state, not realizing that those are foreign people that are foreign, that are trying to that have been controlling Washington for years.
Right.
Their allegiance is not to the country.
Right.
Okay. It says such as armed forces and civil authorities, intelligence agencies, police, secret police, administrative agencies, and branches of government bureaucracy. Okay, so if you have say you have a police force and their allegiance is to every other police officer and not their country, or their allegiance is to their fraternal order and not their country, that is a state within a state. It says does not respond to the civilian political leadership. Although the state within a state can be conspiratorial in nature, the deep state can also take the form of entrenched, unelected career civil servants, acting in a non-conspiratorial manner to further their own interest. Continuity of the state is as distinct from the administration, job security, enhanced power and authority, pursuit of ideological goals and objectives, and general growth of their agency. So this is well known in the, there was a judge, a federal judge that was confessing to all the criminal activity going on. And a lot of people don't realize that the district manager is the one that actually runs the federal courts. And their guise is, well, we don't want to give this guy a trial or jury trial or anything else. All these agencies really have to stick together. And they've been known to go in and change federal judges' judgments, rewrite them, have them sign them, and the whole deal. And these are the district managers themselves. You can go on YouTube anytime. Federal judge confesses. You can put that in there.
Yeah, I've got another example that popped into my mind as you read through that, and that is I recall back. This is back when Obama was president. Perhaps 2008, 2009, somewhere in that range, 2010. Ultimately, that doesn't matter as much as the Democrats introduced via the Obama's office, the idea of expanding appointed positions within the White House. And there was, as I recall, there was, how they played out 3 months, 4 months, 5 months of back and forth, Republican versus Democrat about the worthiness of the idea, et cetera, et cetera. Ultimately, it got enacted, it got passed. That's part of how they operate within this realm here. They stack the body with long-term appointments so that those that are elected, the agendas continue and continue and continue. And you know nothing about it because you're not familiar. Those names aren't the ones that you see on TV.
Right. The people they call, yeah. Okay. It says, and in opposition to the policies of elected officials by obstructing, resisting, and subverting the policies and directives of elected officials. The term, like in many politics, derives from the Greek language, later adopted into Latin. We know where Latin comes from. Okay. Now, sometimes the term refers to state companies, creatures of the state, aka deep state. It says that though formally under the command of the government, act de facto like private corporations. Wonder why? Mainly because a lot, if not all, prosecutors' offices operate as private companies that are registered in Delaware to do business. Just go check it out. Go on Dun & Bradstreet or Manta, M-A-N-T-A, manta.com, and you can look up their private company. It's privately owned. We've talked about that before in the past. Okay. Now, sometimes the term refers to companies that, though formally private, act de facto like states within a state. It says political debates surrounding the separation of church and state previously revolved around the perception that if left unchecked, the church might turn into a kind of state within a state, an illegitimate outgrowth of the state's natural civil power. So since the source of a deep state and or the shadow governments is religious in nature, the country is rendered powerless to stop the sovereign will of the foreign monarch. Thereby the foreign monarch enjoys two conditions. One is the foreign monarch remains unaccountable for its actions in the foreign country. Two, the foreign monarch receives all the benefits of the foreign country as far as what it produces and the gross national product, and the foreign monarch never suffers any losses due to human rights violations or war crimes it has caused in the name of the foreign country. And the reason is because people really aren't aware that through these secret societies and all that are all allegiant to a foreign country, because believe it or not, the Vatican's foreign, guys. Okay, Catholics, they're foreign to the United States of America. So they've always been foreign. They're not a part of the UN, of course, because he runs the UN, but they are a foreign country. So when you're walking in a Catholic church, you're on foreign ground.
That's right.
And a lot of people don't understand that. That's the reason why. And we can get into how much money he actually gets. I think it's 40 zeros a year or something. He gets a check. I don't even know how much that is. There's been a lot of research done on it, but we're not going to get into it in this program, this particular broadcast. Says further, the foreign monarch will not direct its orders to fulfill the foreign country's civil duty to its people. That's why you don't have oaths and affirmations to the states. Think about it. And will allow its infrastructure to diminish to the detriment of the country itself. Gee, folks, take a look at your freaking electrical grid. It's worse than what East Germany's was when it was occupied. You know, I mean, come on, it's bad. It's really bad. The bridges are in worse shape.
Yeah,
this government has said we will pay for your bridges and all your infrastructure to get worked on. That's completely ignored.
Yeah,
they ignore it because they're not interested in that. And every time you have a dictatorship, okay, or a fraternal or orders, okay, running countries and things, the infrastructure always goes down. And the government of the United States of America has been trying to rebuild the infrastructure for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that you can now with the internet, it's a lot easier. You can pull up pictures from Hong Kong or wherever, and you can see that the architecture is completely different now. We don't have any of that stuff happening here. I'm in my 50s. I've seen really no significant change in the infrastructure of the American society, except for cell phones.
Oh yeah, cell phones have really gotten and we'll get into the religion of AI here in a minute. Those things are great. Look at Chicago. Right. Crap hole.
Yeah, and the cell phones obviously aren't even infrastructure. I just used it as a.
I know it's a joke, bro.
Yeah. So you're it's a correct assessment. You're looking at a decade after decade after decade deterioration of the surroundings within which the American society is expected to operate.
Right. You have a grid. Okay. Well, let's just give an example. You have a grid and they keep putting on these developers and in order to, bolster the job growth numbers, they start expanding more urban sprawl. So you've got more and more houses being attached to the same grid, and the grid has not been upgraded for the past 30 to 50 years.
Right. Capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you got a problem there. Nobody sees that. You may have real pretty TVs and television sets that are 50-inch and they're only $400 or less.
Well, you have to deliver the propaganda.
Yeah, but pretty soon you're not going to have a grid to put electricity to that television to be able to watch the propaganda. So it kind of self-defeating there. Okay, the Republicans and Democrats having been created out of the foreign Masonic order temple, and we've discussed that in earlier programs, are fully aware of the sedition that the aforementioned order has committed due to the fact that all of the politicians in the Republican and Democratic parties are members of one of these aforementioned orders, which means their allegiance is to a foreign power. If you get into the Masons, your allegiance is to a foreign power. It's also your allegiance is, and it's been very well established, a part of the Masonic order as being Satanist. Very well established with that. The sedition is committed when the Republicans and Democrats publicly declare their allegiance to this country, while secretly have already taken many oaths in certain degrees within its order to the Masonic order temple, which requires full allegiance to it over and above country. Now, the sedition is rationalized that God's law is higher than man's law. I've heard a lot of militants in Islam to say that. Well, Allah's law is greater than man's law, so we have a right to do this. It says the sedition is rationalized that God's law is higher than man's law, wherein that the building of countries is the law of God. And believe it or not, the whole Bible is talking about building countries constantly throughout the whole thing. It says, therefore, the aforementioned rationalization is nothing more than a notion on the part of the seditionists. It's a nation building book. It always has been. It says, further, it has been witnessed by this committee that these seditionists refer to the United States as being the Union of States, when in fact the United States is a privately owned company that declared independence unto itself within Manhattan Island and the District of Columbia, wherein it is foreign to the states of the Union under the rule of private international law. There's a court case that deals with this right here to back that up. The rule of another foreign monarch known as the King of the Netherlands. The United States was formerly known as the East India Trading Company. Okay, when referring to United States, it would be grammatically correct to refer to United States as these United States, because now if it's a conglomeration of 48 states or 50 states, however they want to do that, then it would be these. That would be the term. So it would have said, we the people of these United States. So if the subject matter was about the states of the Union, as they were referred to as these United States under the name of the country, which is the United States of America. And that would be that right here. First in time, first in right. That was the original name. Got to keep it. However, the use of the word the can be used as a plural or singular. And the very fact that the word the has a double meaning allowed the term to be in question depending upon the user of the term the United States. Cause confusion is what I'm trying to say. So since the term the United States was used by unelected secret society members that signed the Constitution of the United States, we've proven that beyond a shadow of doubt in special editions and the t-roh show, we can only interpret that the use of the word the United States as meaning in its singular sense rather than the plural use of the word the, thereby rendering itself independent of the states of the Union. And that is backed up by the United States is foreign to the states of the Union under the rule of private international law. And there's a case that takes care of that. And we talked about that in earlier programs. The reason why we can interpret the use of the word the in its singular sense is because the Constitution of the United States, when signed, took the sovereignty of the states of the Union with the stroke of a pen. That's when we talked about genocide. That's what genocide was. It says the use of the word these in possessive, or is possessive, where the use of the word the in its singular or plural sense is non-possessive. Further evidence of the interpretation of the use of the word the in its singular sense is the following. Oh, Lordy. United States means a federal corporation. Right here. And we know a lot of people have seen that. That's not a big, big thing. We're just saying that that's what it is in this sense. It says corporations are never owned publicly, although they can operate in the public by offering shares to the public for investment purposes. They are inherently privately owned. So hence you have the singular sense, the United States. That's what we're talking about. In this case, the United States is privately owned only by a few within the aforementioned secret societies. So the Masons, the Masonic Lodge owns this company. And then they started calling it a government.
And that's the problem.
Yep, there's your problem. All right, secret societies, when posing as government authority, is in fact sedition because the allegiance of its members is exclusive to the order and not the country itself. Sedition, in one sense, is any action, especially in speech or writing, promoting such discontent or rebellion. Any action taken by a secret society member while in public office will be promoting discontent or rebellion because their allegiance is inherently to the order and not to the country. If you listen to anything they say, no matter what, their allegiance is not to your country. And this is what we're trying to tell you. And the United States has never been a country. It's always been a privately owned corporation since 1789. Actually, since 1787, according to Manta. Go look it up. It says any leader that leads the population of the country away from the country is further considered human trafficking. Now, do y'all understand why you didn't go to get your residency and then go through your 3 years and then take your oath and affirmation? Oh, well, you were born here. You don't have to do that. It's all BS, see? It always is. So sedition is overt conduct, such as speech and organization, that tends to towards insurrection against the established order. Huh, you have an established order here. What are you talking about? I thought it was the established government, but they use the word order. Sedition often includes subversion of the Constitution and incitement of discontention or resistance to lawful authority, i.e., law of nations. So just because you have a constitution doesn't mean that you can ignore the law of nations. The law of nations is what created your constitution. Sedition may include any commotion, though not aimed at direct and open violence against the laws. Seditious words in writing are seditious libel. Seditionist is one who engages in or promotes the interests of sedition. Now, we've heard countless speech after speech from those who call themselves Democrats, but actually they're both Democrat and a Republican. They're all a part of the same order. So they're all the same people. And we've heard this over and over and over again. Seditious libel, there's all kinds of things. Okay, that says this is what the aforementioned secret societies say is seditious conspiracy. This is what they were told. If two or more persons in any state or territory or in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, which we all know that is extremely clear, conspire to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force to seize, take, or possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof. And by the way, folks, governments can't own property. Hello. There's your first clue that this is crap, okay? Contrary to the authority thereof, they shall each be fined under this title and imprisoned not more than 20 years. Okay, governments cannot own property. They have never been able to own property. That is very clear. Government's jurisdiction is based upon the the property ownership of the people and their allegiance to that government. That's how it expands. It's the people that expand it. It can't own property itself. That's a clue right there. Big clue, all right? That means that this statement is crap. The committee will put the aforementioned source in perspective. So, the United States is a federal corporation claiming to be a government of the United States. At the same time, the source uses the term them when it refers to against them. That was right here. Okay, we can only assume that the term them refers to the states, thereby assuming that the term the in the United States is used in a plural sense. However, the source did not make any reference to the states of the Union. And therefore, it would be common sense to interpret the use of the term them would be referring to the grand masters within the states. Why? Because it was all created by a secret society. In other words, let's put this in perspective. The federal corporation is protecting itself and its existence from the people, members of the secret societies within the source, and not the people that are not members of the secret societies nor subject to its foreign monarch. So that's the secret society and the grand masters of their secret society telling other grand masters, if two or more of you two start levying war against us, then that's levying war against your monarch, which is the Pope, okay, and the what do you call it, King of the Netherlands, and therefore we're going to come down on you. That's all it's saying. How could it be a federal corporation and a government at the same time? Think about it. It doesn't work. Now, it is not uncommon for foreign monarchs to create their own governments that represent the monarch interest in a foreign country. Many people refer to this type of rule as corporate government. And we've heard how many times them saying that in the White House press meetings and stuff? Well, corporate governments, they talk about corporate governments. And others refer to as parliaments or representative governments. However, the representative governments do not necessarily mean representative of the people, even if there's a perceived election by the people, i.e. electoral college. The existence of an electoral college renders all votes opinions of the people. I have seen that on local news before. That you should have seen the reporter's look on his face, and that was during the, I think it was the second Obama election. They came out and said, well, the electoral votes is actually this, this, and this, and those are the only ones that count. And it basically, your vote is an opinion. And you should see the look on the guy's face.
Yeah, and we showed that within the t-roh show, right out of the Constitution, how that actually works. Yep.
I.e. electoral college. The existence of an electoral college renders all votes opinions of the people, non-members of the secret society, and not actual votes. Further, the popes of Vatican City are notorious for violating the law of nations in the name of religion. You ought to read the law of nations when it comes to popes. It tears them to pieces, by the way. This is why they don't ever teach you the law of nations, because it tears the Pope to pieces when it comes to that. They have a very long history of violating sovereignty of other countries. As the sedition of the Pope's secret societies is when they claim to adhere to the laws of the country wherein they reside, yet cause the people to follow the edicts of the foreign Pope of the Vatican City. These acts also fit the definition of espionage, multiple human rights violations, war crimes, and many violations of the law of nations. Now, this is what's supposed to happen. The number one duty and responsibility of any political party is to fully disclose its allegiance to its country and fully disclose to the people that its government is subject to the law of nations, in order that the political party does not render itself an enemy to what its members profess to openly and publicly serve. Further, its constituency is required to be fully informed that the political party is not subject to a foreign power, nor created by a foreign power, and that joining it is not used to give the appearance of representative government, democracy, and does not render the constituent stateless as it pertains to the constituent's own country. That's where you had a major problem. Because once you become Catholic, if you join that organization knowing it's under the Pope, your first allegiance is to the Catholic Church that is led by a foreign monarch. So did you go through a naturalization to become a citizen of Vatican City? Big problem. That's why you got to watch this, and that's why the Pope is torn to pieces in the law of nations, because you can't do that and not tell people what they're doing. That's a major problem. Now, this was count one, okay? Now we're going to be dealing with citizenship, and we've gone through a lot of this over and over through the with dealing with these orders and secret societies of what this is all about. Now you have here regulations and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to put a find here, and I'll put associates. Social, S-E-C-U-R-I-T-Y. Social Security. Okay, so the Social Security will come up. Notice of non-custodial parents, Social Security number, and it deals with liens procedures. Liens arise by operation of law against the real and personal property for amounts of overdue support owed by the non-custodial parent who resides or owns property in the state. Oh, gee, it's the same state there. So does that mean the Grand Master owns all the property? Who knows? Recording of Social Security numbers in certain family matters. Now, why do you have to record Social Security numbers in certain family matters? Any application, professional license, driver's license, occupational license, recreational license or marriage license be recorded on the application. That's pretty much everybody's personal stuff. What do you say, Stu?
I'd agree with you 100%.
That's right in your family, man, right?
Yeah, that number is, they drive that home.
Yeah, any individual who is subject to a divorce decree, support order, or paternal determination or acknowledgement be placed in the records relating to the matter on a Social Security number, right? Any individual has died to be placed in the records relating to the death and recorded on the death certificate has to have a Social Security number. Those are all very personal things. That's your work, your marriage, your children, your family, everything. Now, does that sound like a government? That doesn't sound like government to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, the people need to be asking themselves, why would that be? Why would that be? If you think it through, you'll make some realizations.
Right. Yeah. You'll see why is it that they're all up in my business, all up in my family, all up in everything? Why do I have a Social Security number to get all that stuff done? Okay. And this stuff is creeped up on a lot of people. A lot of people just aren't seeing it. So we've spent 48 programs saying the exact same thing, but we're going to say it one more time, and then we're going to show you some hypocrisy, and then we're going to show you some remedy. Okay, so for the purpose of subparagraph A, they always do this, lawyers love that. If the state allows the use of the number other than the Social Security number to be used on the face of the document while the Social Security number is kept on file at the agency, the state shall be advised, shall be so advised any applicants, blah, 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 shall advise any applicants. Okay, so now the state is giving advice, legal advice. Huh. Didn't catch that, huh? They throw that in there. So the state shall use high volume automated administrative enforcement. Listen to that. The state shall use high volume automated administrative enforcement. What does the hell does that mean? High volume, okay, to the same extent as used for intrastate cases. Okay, that's interstate commerce, and you have intrastate commerce. This is within the states, okay? So if you don't go over the borders, they consider that intrastate commerce. In response to the request made by another state to enforce support orders and all this other kind of crap. Okay? Now, I got a problem with this. I'm going to show you why. Big problem with this. There's Title 42, Section 666. Not kidding. Didn't make this up. Let's go to the top. And this is a authenticated U.S., what they call it, U.S. government information. That's my problem there.
Isn't that outrageous? Unbelievable.
Big problem.
Unbelievable.
All right. And this is in these pages, this is page 1904. Okay. Imagine the early 1900 pages. That's the problem I've got with it. Didn't make it up. Go look it up yourself. Go look up Title 42, Public Health and Welfare. Why is that under Section 666? Drives me up a wall. Okay, so here's another problem I've got with this. Let me share screens. There we go. Okay, if you want to give up U.S. citizenship, which a lot of our listeners really do, they don't exactly know why. But I think with that last document, it gives you a good idea why they have this internal spiritual drive to get away from this. They don't want anything to do with it. You got these same people that wrote this stuff now have come up with the religion of AI, artificial intelligence. So you're supposed to bow down to some robot, which is idol worship once again. Why don't you just go bow down to a rock? I mean, seriously, if you're that stupid, do it. So here's a statement of understanding concerning the consequences and ramifications. That's a threat, by the way, of renunciation or relinquishment of U.S. nationality. That's a threat, consequences and ramifications. Now, when you renounce something, you are fully renouncing it. In other words, if I were a Chinese citizen in China and I renounced my Chinese citizenship, China has nothing to do with me anymore. They can't come back and say this, that. I might be able to go back and visit with another passport. And you'll be treated as under tourism and have the same rights and everything else as all the rest of them while you were there, but you got to go back home. You can't just stay. Okay, China's going to tell you, look, you relinquished or renounced citizenship here, get the hell out. We appreciate the fact that you're here to visit your mother and father and all that, but go. It's the same with if you did this in England or Germany or France or Austria or whatever other country there was in the whole entire world. However, the United States is a little different. Okay, now they come in, and if you read on the back of the passport, if you declare allegiance and or take an oath or affirmation to another country, even if it's a company or whatever, you can relinquish your U.S. citizenship. It's right on the back of your passport. Go look at it. Okay. Here's some issues. It says my renunciation relinquishment may not affect my military or selective service status, if any. I understand that any problems in this area must be resolved with the appropriate agencies. Okay. We already talked about agencies, what they are, secret societies. My renunciation relinquishment may not affect my liability, if any, to prosecute for any crimes which I may have committed or may commit in the future, which violate United States law. What? See, I would have thought, okay, before that this would originally say, if you committed any crimes, you're just trying to get out of it by, you murdered somebody, raped somebody, or whatever. You're trying to get out of it by relinquishing U.S. citizenship. However, what do you mean may commit in the future?
Minority Report.
Well, that plus if you renounce citizenship, what the hell's business of the United States law? Why are you still subject to that?
Yeah, I mean, I was reading other entries in this doc. It's riddled with problems.
You wouldn't be subject to that at all.
Mm-hmm.
You could basically give them the finger. Have a nice day. Go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because you renounced it. You have no business in my life, and I'm not going to sit here and worry about United States law, blah, blah. Okay? That's what you're going to do, right? You got out of it to get out of it. All right? My renunciation relinquishment may not affect my liability for extradition to the United States. Excuse me? That's not right, folks. Okay? My renunciation relinquishment may not exempt me from United States income taxation. With regard to United States taxation consequences, I understand that I must contact the United States Internal Revenue Service. Further, I understand that if my renunciation of United States nationality is determined by the United States Attorney General to be motivated by tax avoidance purposes, I will be found excludable from the United States under Immigration Nationality Act as amended. That, folks, this is a fraud. I'm just going to say it. That's a fraud. That is not under the law of nations. This is a fraud. 8. I may commit in the future which violate United States law. These are all frauds. So if we have 3 of these or 4 of these that are saying, oh, well, if you renounce or relinquish U.S. citizenship, you're still subject to all this crap, that means it's a fraud. There is no such thing. That following this particular procedure under those acts is not relinquishing your U.S. citizenship. That's the point I'm trying to make. If you followed the U.S. Code and the U.S. Nationality Act, you're not relinquishing anything, because that's not the true core of the United States. You're not saying the right words. Now, I just showed you. Under the U.S. Code, it's Title 42, Section 666. How many times in the t-roh show have we said over the last 48 times that you're dealing with Luciferian forces here? That how many people know that the Illuminati, the Skull and Bones, the what do you call it? Masonic lodges, all these orders and everything else deal in Luciferianism. You have Karl Marx, his statue right in the middle of Washington, D.C., which nobody has ever said a word about, by the way. They've gotten rid of a bunch of others, but they never got rid of that one. He's a well-known communist and Satanist, a Luciferian. Well-known. Any other examples, Stu, that you can think of?
Yeah, we showed the picture of inside one of the Vatican halls with the serpent, and
that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the extra, the extra decorations there, which were demonic and or whatever kind of word you want to attach to them. Yeah, I mean it's clear. It's beyond reasonable doubt.
Right. So they're asking you under your renunciation, under the statement of understanding concerning the consequences and ramifications of renunciation or relinquishment of U.S. nationality, that all these things does not necessarily get you out of there. So therefore, it is considered on its face a fraud. It's a fraud. The reason is because when you take that renunciation oath, you're not really renouncing anything.
Yeah, I mean, look at item 5 there. I will become stateless. Well, they're stateless to begin with.
They were never given an oath and affirmation to it. So how can you, come on, think about it. It's just assumed. So we got to that point.
Most people have what we refer to as a national identity. You feel emotionally committed to what you think is a nation, but you have no formal acknowledgement between you and a proper government. So you possess a national identity, but you don't have a nationality.
Right. So you have now American national status recognition as a non-citizen, non-resident alien to the United States.
I'm wondering too, before we completely transition, I'm wondering, Keith, how much does that renunciation cost, do you think?
$3,500.
Obviously, there's going to be a fee attached to that, don't you think? It is a corporation.
Mm-hmm. You're laughing at this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just funny. Every single way that they can make money, they make money.
Oh,
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Okay, so this individual, these are court docs here. Okay, and we've seen this a bunch of times. This is Kane County Circuit Court e-services portal. One of our guys that did an oath and affirmation to the United States of America falls under non-citizen, non-resident alien to the U.S. of America. This was 2 years ago.
Yep, and this is a
this right off the newspaper.
Yeah, this was a status review hearing, right? Because one of our guys went in there and claimed that he was a documented American national, and brought that to their court, and ultimately their court turned around and said, yeah.
Now
you are.
Yeah. Now all of the countries that have ever been created all have a deity. They have a God as their authority for creating that country. That's why in a lot of the constitutions in the states is by the grace of the Almighty God and divine providence. Providence or province. I think it's providence. That they can that they have the authority to do this. This is a natural thing in every country that's ever been created. I mean, even Islam was created by their deity, Allah. That's their deity. China was created by Buddha. That's their deity. So, Russians, I think they're Russian Orthodox. I don't know if they're Christian or not, but either way, you have a deity involved. Now, when you got a Title 42, Section 666, there's a problem there because now we're dealing with Luciferianism.
Yeah, what's that deity?
Yeah, what deity is that? They called themselves, I guess it was Lucifer. Yeah, I think they called him that. And in the 1789, that was a secret society. We've proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt that created that Constitution. That is deeply involved in Luciferianism. Today and then, it never changed. You had a woman come right up and before the United States Congress and say, this is not of God. This Congress is not of God. And she's putting her hand in the air. If it was of God, it would have never been. Well, I have a little bit of a problem with that because of the simple fact that it was of a God. It was their God. Now, when Clinton was being messed with about the Lewinsky thing, we brought this up in the last program. He said this was between my wife and our God. And he was basically telling everybody butt out. Then in WikiLeaks, it comes out that says that she's worshiping some kind of deity or some crap. They're going to go sacrifice an animal to some deity that they were talking about. Then you have rampant pedophilia going on, power hungry. Rampant, now they're doing this, really think about it, folks. They're after Al Franken, right? And I'm not making light of what Al Franken is at all. All I'm saying is, in perspective, the guy sitting there grabbing boobs, okay? That's a whole lot different. I mean, you're going to be all shocked and upset over that. When you got rampant pedophilia going on, it's a diversion, folks. Diversion. Keep you away from what's going on. Now, when you have lies upon lies, diversions upon diversions, this, that, and the other thing, who does that? There's only one deity in the world that does that. That is well known to do that. Let's put it that way.
Would it be Lucifer?
I don't want to sound like the church lady here in a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Could be Satan.
Oh yeah, that's right. Satan. That's right. That's funny. Yep.
And
been a long time.
And they always make fun of people that say things like that. However, U.S. citizenship is very connected to Satanism, extremely connected to it. Now, I know everybody's going to freak out. Even putting your hand over your heart during a national anthem, which is full of violence, by the way, and attacking and destroying and blowing people up, that's a Masonic a symbol.
As we've shown in previous
programs, yeah.
Yep.
Over and over and over.
That's right.
So you want to get rid of it? This is called Renouncing the Kings of the World and All Their Glory, ruled by Lucifer. Look how many people have done this. And keeps going. That's how many people have signed this. Now, they can get their copy. They're always trying to get their copy. They can go right over here and get their copy. All they got to do is click this, okay? Click one of them. And it goes to this right here. You click this, and it opens up, and you can download it, okay? You can download it right here. So right there, that says download. Okay. I understand, hereby declare with this oath that I absolutely, entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any of the kingdoms of the world and all their glory ruled by Lucifer, under the creed of Luciferianism, or various doctrines in the religion of Satanism, its potentates, its states, its sovereignties, its regions, and principalities, of whom or which I have heretofore been assumed to be a subject or a citizen thereof, so help me God. And you have a choice of using God or Yahweh. Then you put your name there, you sign it electronically, and this is a perfectly legal document. Shows you the time, date, and everything else. Electronic signatures are legal in contracts or anything else. That's how you get out of that whole mess they got going over there. Because believe me, if you ain't in, you are always going to get the crap into the stick, no matter what you do. And there's a man on who used to be a Luciferian. He used to worship Satan and all that. He came out, he changed his ways, and he feels really bad about it. He says regions are Luciferian. Whenever you talk about regions, you say the word region, that's a Luciferian state. But a lot of people are ignorant of it because they just don't believe that it's that out there and it's right there in the public. When you've got multiple movie stars doing the whole one eye thing, doing the 666 sign, the big scandal in Hollywood about pedophilia, like you're going to clean that up. You're going to clean that mess up. Oh, it was good in the beginning, but it was all Luciferian later on. Okay? You got NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, all attacking the White House constantly. Folks, it's all owned by Disney. Why aren't you going after Disney? They own all that stuff.
And of course, what does Disney attract? Kids.
Uh-huh. And every one of the ones that have been in the Mickey Mouse Club have all been so messed up. Some of them on drugs, commit suicide, turn into this big sexual thing, the whole deal. I mean, look at Britney, man. She went so crazy, she freaking buzzed her head. She couldn't take it anymore. She was in the Mickey Mouse Club. A lot of people don't know that. Been raped since she was 8 years old. So, what does Disney produce? Sex slaves. That's what they produce for the elite. They call themselves elite, but actually for the scumbags. They just have a little money. Okay, so for the folks that have actually done this, please just go over to National Great Registry at General Post Office .international. I was going to show you this because a lot of people keep doing double, things, and just click special pages. Okay, and you can reach this, by the way, because they want to get copies of it, and I don't blame them. It's just they get 4 and 5 people filling it out. It's constant. And I'm saying that you can just download it there. They're wanting a copy of it, which is good. And that gets rid of your any allegiance to that Satanistic freaking organization.
Yeah, it becomes part of your papers.
Right. And if you don't know how to get to that, you can go to generalpostoffice.international and click National Great Registry. Okay. That's all you have to do. It's already published there. Then you go over here, click special pages on the left. Then you go down, go to all pages. Bottom right corner, right there. Renouncing the Kingdoms of the world and all their glory. Now, if you think this is crazy and outlandish and everything else, you have no idea that the United Nations is actually on top of Mount Hermon. What was Mount Hermon? That was nothing more than where the fallen angels fell, in Mount Hermon. I'm going to grab a link to this. And you can, Mount Hermon is well known beyond, in all biblical histories. And I have a whole program on this. It's like 2 hours and 45. It's broadcast 18. And you can go there and we talk about Mount Hermon. We talk about where the promised land is and all that. And it is in Jerusalem, by the way. They missed it at all. They missed the whole thing. But yeah, we talk about that over and over. 2 hours and almost 45 minutes of it, of talking about Mount Hermon. And it's well known for Luciferianism and exactly where the United Nations put their little, I'll probably go faster if I just go over to here and look it up, Mount Hermon. So at any rate, there you go. Here it is right here. So we're not trying to get all religious on folks. We're just saying that this is what they believe.
Yeah, and I think that's an important. Point. The credibility of some of these philosophies, some of these outlooks, doesn't necessarily tie into the folks that are listening to this show. What's important to understand is that they believe this stuff, and you have to take that into consideration. They find it credible. They allow it to guide their lives, their decision making. There you go. UN right there.
There it is. It's right on Mount Hermon. Okay. And like we said, we're not trying to, okay, I've signed one of these. Okay. I'm not saying that, oh, I'm safe now because I did this, and this. I did do the renouncement, did all that and everything else. What I'm saying is that's what they believe. So this is the way to communicate with them.
Exactly.
Okay, folks, I'm not getting all religious on you.
Exactly. No, it's their system is prevalent. We have to be able to communicate with them. This is how they communicate. So there you have it.
Right. I mean, you have 33 and a third degree coming from France, and this is where Mount Hermon is, and and this is where they talk about it. They talk about in 1666, Louis the 14th of France authorized the building of an observatory in Paris to measure longitude. which that was the beginning of Paris Zero Meridian. And if you want to look this up, just put, I looked it up, Mount Hermon, United Nations. This comes right up. Okay, believe it or not, according to the Paris Zero Meridian, which is connected to what? Washington, D.C., because all the presidents are over there. Plus, there's a big Statue of Liberty over by the Masonic Hall. All right. Mount Hermon and the ancient territory of Dan is located at 33 degrees east of Paris Zero Meridian and 33 degrees north of the equator. The 33rd degree became an important part of Freemasonry, probably due to the history that dates back to the Knights Templar, the French Merovingian, thank you, yep, dynasty, and their family ties to the Danites. And they believe that the I think they believe that the Antichrist is going to come out of the tribe of Dan. So, best way to handle that is do one of these. Okay, now everybody's going to ask, where do you get one of these? How do I do this? So I'm going to pop in a new tab here.
Let's show them the page.
And you can go over to the Department of Transportation for the government of the United States of America and renounce the kingdoms of the world and all their glory. And the reason why we have it on this page is because that's where the plugin was. It has no reflection. Okay, it's just a plugin that we were using for so that you're able to do this. I added the email to it because so I can actually, for those that keep filling them out, wanting us, they want a copy, they don't know where to go. I'm just going to send them back an email. You print your name and then you sign it here. And if you screw this up, just clear it and do it again. This is hard to do because of a mouse. And everything is recorded. You execute the form, we get a copy of it, and it ends up right here in alphabetical order. A's, B's, C's, the whole thing, by your last name. Okay? Now you can use this in any case. You renounce. That's a full renunciation. Back to the States of the Union and the United States of America. Your American nationality, not your U.S. nationality. U.S. nationality is different from American nationality because they're foreign to each other. Your American nationality deals with the States of the Union and the United States of America. So that you would not be stateless, if you did something like this, you had a place to go. And that's why this government exists. The government of the United States of America, that's why it exists. We take you out of U.S. nationality and put you into American nationality, into the States of the Union. We deliver you there. That's called the General Post Office. Your person is being delivered back to the States of the Union under American nationality, not U.S. nationality. Big difference. Huge difference. Okay? So if you don't believe me and you didn't read or pay attention to what I was saying to you or what I was showing you, there it is right there. U.S. nationality. This is not American nationality.
And to be clear, they use the word nationality to fool people. Really, it should be like U.S. identity or
right,
something along those lines.
Okay. So, like I said, you can look all this stuff up yourself. You can go out there, put it all together. If you're just gonna, leave comments that try to deter people away from this, we know what gaslighting is, folks. We know what you're doing. We just delete your comments. You're gaslighting people. We know that. Go look it up. Gaslighting, it's nothing more than a psychological a scam used by Luciferians. We know what you're doing. You try to gaslight people. If you don't know what gaslighting, G-A-S-L-I-G-H-T-I-N-G, gaslighting, go look it up. Just put it up there and it'll tell you exactly what gaslighting is. Okay? So, everything we've shown you is not coming from us. It's coming from what you are being told. And what is out there, you have been given full notice of what you're involved in, what you're dealing with, and everything else. It's all over your entertainment. It's all over everything. So make your decision. If you want your American nationality and you want to make sure that they leave you the hell alone, this is, if they don't leave you alone, it's called a religious violation. To them, it's a religious violation. They use the rights of religion to encroach upon people and to try to get you involved in this Luciferian crap. It is what it is. Thanks for listening to the t-roh show. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you learned something. We enjoy the likes. We enjoy the subscriptions. So give us a subscribe or a like, and we do appreciate it.
See you next week.